My name is Joshua. I'm 70, and I've spent more years saving hearts than I care to count, only to realize I might not even recognize my own family anymore. Charleston glimmered tonight, chandeliers like frozen fireworks, guests laughing in silvered gowns and tailored suits. I walked through the ballroom, feeling every smile like a blade. "Trust is the deadliest weapon of all," I muttered under my breath, the words tasting like ash. The champagne table was pristine. Crystal flutes caught the soft golden light, bubbling slowly, innocently. My glass was set at the end of the row, reserved, but something made my chest tighten, an almost invisible glint near the rim. I bent closer. A small white tablet rested there, as if placed by a careful hand. My breath caught. "Luck favors the prepared," I whispered, but this wasn't luck. Not tonight. I glanced toward Derek. He was already near Lydia, talking low, smiling too brightly, too convincingly. His hand hovered over his own glass, like a predator testing the water. Lydia laughed at something he said, but her eyes didn't reach mine. Hollow. My daughter had been slowly vanishing since the day he married her. Marina, my wife, glided past, the picture of composure, yet her smile felt stretched. Something about it set my nerves on fire. A waiter tripped. Glasses clinked. The room's laughter skipped a beat. Perfect misdirection. I noticed Derek's hand flick, a subtle motion imperceptible to anyone else but sharp to trained eyes. He dropped something. Tiny. Almost nothing. My pulse jumped. I moved closer to the table. A server brushed past, their shoulder nudging mine. My fingers brushed my reserved glass. Clean. Safe. For now. But the other glass, Derek's, gleamed dangerously under the chandelier's light. I could almost feel the weight of it. The poison, if that's what it was, waited. Patient. Invisible. Waiting for the wrong moment. I reminded myself of a phrase I'd always held close. Even the quietest man can strike when cornered. My heart beat faster. I scanned the room. Every guest, every whisper, every glance. No one noticed. Everyone was drunk on celebration, blissfully unaware. That was their advantage, their vulnerability, my edge. I bent slightly, pretending to adjust my cufflink, while eyes darted around, watching, calculating. Derek moved closer to the toast table, laughing at some jest Marina whispered. Their synchronization was subtle, too precise. I narrowed my eyes. The realization hit me like a hammer. This was orchestrated, not random, not accidental. They wanted me, my life, my control, my presence. Removed from the equation. And Marina. Marina was a part of it. I stepped back, took a steadying breath. My mind raced. Every step, every flicker of light, every shuffle of feet became data, patterns to memorize, mistakes to anticipate. I had 45 years of surgery embedded in my instincts. It was time to operate outside the OR, but first, I had to survive this room. Every shadow could be an enemy, every reflection a trap. I bent again to study the tablet, ignoring the laughter. The golden bubbles in the glass before me seemed to dance like taunting spirits. I needed a plan, a contingency, a distraction, something to shift the focus without tipping my hand. My pulse thrummed in my ears. My eyes flicked toward the grand piano. George Patterson, my old friend, sat poised, unaware, yet capable. The thought struck me. Perfect leverage, timing, precision. Execution. I straightened, letting my gaze sweep the ballroom. Conversations hummed, glasses clinked, chandeliers flickered. I caught Marina's reflection in a mirror near the buffet. She smiled again. That smile, was no longer safe. Derek raised his glass, eyes briefly catching mine. A challenge, a dare. I smiled back, but it didn't reach my eyes. Not yet. I inhaled, exhaled, calculated. The tablet sat silently, treacherous like a coiled snake. My hands hovered above my glass. My chest tightened, adrenaline sharp and hot. One false move, one delayed blink, and everything could end here. Tonight, under the pretense of celebration. I glanced at Marina again, saw the smallest nod to Derek, imperceptible to anyone else. That was all it took to confirm my suspicion. My pulse doubled. I could feel the room closing in, every footstep, every whispered toast, every clinking glass magnified. Shadows stretched, flickered, hiding secrets. Someone was always watching, always waiting. My life, my daughter, my legacy, they were counting on me to move first, move smart. And I had to. Joshua's hand hovers over the glass, and a cold realization cuts through him. Someone wants me dead tonight. I moved through the ballroom like a shadow, every laugh and murmur slicing against my nerves. The chandelier flickered above, catching the rim of Derek's glass. He lingered too long by Lydia, whispering something that made her nod with a tight smile. My hands itched to reach for the glass, to touch it, to confirm my suspicion. But I waited. Patience was my only weapon tonight. Fortune favors the calculated, I muttered, letting the words anchor me. The music swelled. A waiter stumbled, just enough to scatter a few napkins. A tiny white pill wobbled at the edge of Derek's glass. He didn't notice. I did. I felt the pulse in my temples thrum. Every instinct screamed danger, every heartbeat a countdown. I edged closer, keeping my movements invisible, measured. Shadows from the towering ferns made the room feel smaller, crowded with silent threats. Someone was always watching, always waiting. Marina passed behind me, her gown brushing my arm, her perfume sweet and sharp. Her eyes caught mine for a split second, a flash, too quick to read, and then a nod, a deliberate, calculated flick of her head toward Derek. My chest seized. She's in on it, my wife, my partner of 50 years. And the thought twisted my stomach like a knife. I ducked behind the buffet table. My pulse rattled in my ears. In the darkest rooms, the shadows speak louder than the voices. I reminded myself. I scanned the edges of the room. A server lingered too long near the doors, one hand fiddling with a device that glowed faintly. Security cameras caught the room, yet their angles could be manipulated. I knew how easily evidence could vanish in moments like this. Every detail mattered. Every slip could be fatal. I texted Dr. Simon Beauregard, my friend and ally in this chaos. The words were brief. Be ready. I think they've planned something. Marina and Derek. Poison. Ballroom. End of table. No response yet. That was fine. Silence was part of the game. Observation first. Reaction second. Survival third. A flicker caught my eye. Derek moved his hand again, something sliding into his glass. I froze. Slow motion. Camera cut. My breath caught. Everyone else laughed at some joke I didn't hear. No one noticed the movement. No one except me. My mind raced. Chemical formulas, dosages, timing. Every second counted. I could calculate the lethal effect before he even drank, but acting now would risk exposure. Acting too late would cost me everything. And Lydia. Ellie, Lydia's friend, approached under the guise of conversation, her voice bright. Joshua, you've got that look again. Something wrong. My heart leapt. Could I trust her, or was she being used to test me? I answered with a smile, neutral. Just admiring the decorations. Lies. Tiny, harmless lies. Truth could be fatal tonight. Derek raised his glass toward the head of the table. A gesture rehearsed, poised, perfect. Marina mirrored him subtly. An unspoken signal. The perfect, synchronized act. Guests noticed nothing. I noticed everything. My eyes darted, my breath shallow, every micro-expression cataloged, the slow lift of his eyebrows, the twitch of her jaw, the precise timing. I'd seen this coordination before, in the operating room, when seconds meant life or death. And tonight, life was on the line in a different way. A sudden clatter near the dessert station pulled every gaze momentarily. Quick cut. Derek's attention wavered. I moved a fraction closer. Slow motion again. The pill. Still there. Waiting. Patient. Deadly. I caught Marina's glance in the mirrored wall. Her lips curved, not with joy, but satisfaction. The betrayal cut deeper than any surgical incision I'd ever made. A phone buzzed at my hip. Unknown number. I slipped away into the small hallway beside the ballroom. Text displayed. If you step forward tonight, she dies first. My hands shook. The ballroom laughter pressed through the walls like waves. Shadows danced. I felt corners of the room closing in. The walls themselves seemed to breathe. I pressed myself against the wood paneling, mind running through contingencies. Trust nothing. Suspect everything. Move carefully. Timing. Placement. Execution. I had 45 years of precision embedded in me. Tonight demanded all of it. I peeked through the doorway. Derek lifted his glass again, smiling at Marina. A perfect performance. A rehearsed mask. I knew he thought he controlled the game. He didn't. I had the advantage. Just barely. I counted the seconds synchronized with the piano notes. My pulse matched the rhythm. This was more than a toast. This was a battlefield. The hall lights flickered. A hush passed briefly, like a breath held by the entire room. Derek's eyes met mine for a flash. Confidence, arrogance. But that tiny spark betrayed uncertainty, the subtle quiver of a hand. Marina's head tilted slightly, almost imperceptibly, toward the kitchen exit. A signal or a threat? Every instinct screamed the same. Danger multiplied. Every step now could unravel everything. I drew a slow, measured breath, the metallic taste of adrenaline in my mouth. This was it. Timing, distraction, execution. One wrong move, and not only my life, but Lydia's and the truth of 50 years could vanish in a heartbeat. I flexed my fingers, eyes locked on the glass. The pill waited. Derek waited. Marina waited. And I waited, ready. Joshua freezes mid-step. Marina's hand brushes Derek's as she passes the poisoned glass, and she looks directly at him with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. The music stopped, just for a heartbeat, and then it swelled again, louder, masking the thrum of my own pulse. Guests raised glasses, murmurs rising like the tide, oblivious. I held mine steady, clean, safe. For now. Derek lifted his, deliberate, poised, a predator smiling at prey. Marina's hand brushed his, subtle, almost cinematic, a signal I couldn't ignore. Shadows stretched across the polished floor, flickering in time with my heartbeat. I remembered a saying I'd clung to during my surgeries. Precision is survival. Tonight, it wasn't the OR. It was the ballroom. Life and death in slow motion. I scanned every face. Every smile hid intent. Every glance could be a lie. The piano's soft keys punctuated my thoughts. Cut scene, heartbeat, flinch. A whisper here, a shuffle there. Always someone watching, always someone waiting. Derek raised his glass toward me. Confidence radiated off him, smooth, practiced. I mirrored a polite smile. Beneath it, calculation, timing, execution. I needed a distraction, a moment. My old friend George Patterson stepped forward, clearing his throat. May I propose a toast? The room turned. Eyes shifted, cameras subtly angled. Perfect. Timing aligned. Slow motion in my mind. Toast rising. Laughter masked intent. I slid my hand, just slightly brushing the table. Derek's glass teetered. I had seconds. I swapped the glasses. Clean to him. Poison to him. My glass now untouched. Subtle. Invisible. He didn't notice. No one noticed. Only I could see. Breath quickened. The tension thickened. Shadows pressed closer, edges sharp. A moment can change everything. I whispered it aloud, my own mantra. Derek drank. 2 long gulps. Smile still in place. Pride. Arrogance. And then, pause. A slight falter. Eyes widen. Hand trembling near his forehead. Cut to reaction. A nearby guest notices nothing. Marina watches him. Calm. Too calm. Satisfaction faint beneath the surface. But what's the next move? Timing? Rhythm? Heartbeats. I needed more. This was just the first note. I remembered Ellie's warning. Her bright smile earlier now seemed sharp in my mind. Don't trust the shadows. They move faster than you think. I had learned that over 50 years. My hands gripped the stem of my glass. Eyes flicked from Derek to Marina. Their silent communication, minute and deadly, unfolded like a slow-motion film, each gesture deliberate. Every microsecond counted. A waiter approached, a tray clinking. The sound ricocheted across the room. Cut scene. Derek flinched, not because he noticed me, because the universe shifted. Timing was mine. I could act. My pulse hammered. Marina's gaze met mine in a reflection on the champagne flute. A half smile. Knowing. Dangerous. My stomach clenched. Even the quietest man can strike when cornered. Truth. Tonight, the quietest man was me. I calculated, second by second, escape routes, contingencies, camera angles, guests' lines of sight. My daughter sat beside Marina, oblivious to the plan, eyes downcast, energy drained by years of manipulation. Protect her, protect the truth, protect myself. One misstep and all would be lost. The room seemed to close in. The lights brightened and dimmed as if synced with my anxiety. Every flicker a warning. Then a sudden movement. A server tripped. Glasses rattled. Guests turned. Chaos. Slow motion reveal. I slid my hand, lifting my glass slightly. Derek's eyes flicked for an instant. Cut to reaction. Nothing. Relief. danger intertwined. The toast continued, laughter, applause, masks firmly in place. And yet, the war had begun. Every sip, every glance, every heartbeat mattered. The piano played a sharp note. I exhaled, short, shallow. A phone buzzed against my hip. Unknown number, another warning. Step wrong, and tonight ends in flames. My chest tightened, shadows shifted, movement at the edges. I was surrounded by enemies invisible, allies unseen. Every second a calculation, every microsecond a decision. I raised my glass to my lips, slow, deliberate, eyes scanning. Marina's reflection caught the chandelier light. A shadow moved behind her, slight, almost imperceptible. My breath froze. Her lips curved, not in joy, but anticipation. The room's music swelled, guests oblivious. Derek swallowed, unknowing, pride still on his face. And then, in a fleeting instant, everything clicked. She had been orchestrating this, both of them, together. The betrayal, sharp, cold, undeniable. A scream cut through the laughter, sudden, high, like glass shattering. Heads turned. I froze mid-motion. The poison, the plan, the toast. It was no longer just a gamble. It was a war. And I was in the center, trapped, calculating, waiting. Joshua's eyes met Marina's shadowed gaze in the chandelier light, and he knew the room held secrets darker than he could yet comprehend. I stayed low, pressed against the sideboard, eyes tracing every movement in the ballroom. Derek sipped from the glass I had switched, the poison hidden, a slow smile curling on his lips. Marina moved with him, every step synchronized, silent signals passing like code. The most dangerous people are the ones you trust the most, I whispered to myself, tasting the metallic tang of adrenaline. A sudden laugh, sharp, rehearsed, snapped my head toward the piano. George's toast was in motion, words flowing smooth and deliberate, all eyes on him. Perfect. I counted my timing. Slow motion clarity. Lift my hand, slide the glass, realign the angle. Every heartbeat synchronized with the music. Cut scene. Camera flashes, guests oblivious, shadows bending. The poison remained untouched in Derek's glass. I moved, careful, calculating. Ellie drifted closer under the guise of conversation. Her eyes flicked to Marina for the briefest second, then to me. Even the smallest action can expose the truth, she murmured, her voice disguised as a joke. I nodded subtly, masking the tension coiling through my chest. Observation first, reaction second, survival third. Marina's gaze met mine across the room. A slow, deliberate nod, subtle, almost imperceptible. She knew I was watching. And I knew that whatever she was planning would spiral beyond this room if I misstepped. I felt the air thicken, every glance, every breath, every shimmer of light bouncing off the crystal reflected suspicion. Someone always watched, always waited. I edged toward the table, past the clinking of silver and murmured laughter, stomach tight. Derek adjusted his cuff, eyes on his glass, unaware the content was now his own undoing. Slow motion in my mind. Shift, lift, glide. I could almost hear the internal rhythm of the room, the subtle creak of the floor, the flutter of a napkin, the quiet thrum of a heartbeat beside mine. A phone buzzed against my side. Unknown number, quick glance. Text, if you move wrong, she suffers first. My chest seized. Marina, Derek, the entire web of the plan, and my daughter somewhere in the shadows. Everything amplified to a razor edge. Cut to reaction, the piano struck a sharp chord. The room's gaze was elsewhere. Timing perfect. My hand hovered inches from the switched glass. Precision now, instinct second. I caught a movement near the dessert station. A tray clattered, glasses rattled, guests turned. Microsecond distraction. I slid the poisoned glass closer to Derek. Flawless. Eyes on him. Cut to reaction, nothing. Confidence radiating from his smirk. He had no idea. Not yet. But the pieces were moving. Slow, silent, deadly. Marina passed, shadowing Derek, glancing at me in the mirrored wall. Half smile. Satisfaction faint, controlled. I sensed the depths of the betrayal, but also a crack. Something desperate hidden beneath the calm. Even the coldest mask hides a heartbeat, I reminded myself. My pulse throbbed. Adrenaline sharp and clean. One false move, one misread glance, and everything could collapse. Timing was life. I scanned the edges of the room, guests chatting, oblivious. Ellie by Lydia's side, attentive, vigilant. Security cameras angled, waiters moving, details stacking in my mind like surgical instruments, each precise, ready. The ballroom transformed into a map of threats and opportunities, every shadow a potential weapon, every smile a clue. The toast neared its apex. George's words crescendoed. Cut scene. Derek lifted his glass. Marina's hand grazed his sleeve. Subtle, signaling. My stomach clenched. Everything aligned. The room's warmth, the light, the music, the chatter, all a stage. I felt the predator awareness sharpen. This was not just a celebration. This was war in miniature. Then, a sudden piercing note from the piano. A flicker in Marina's eyes. Derek's smile faltered ever so slightly. Slow motion clarity again. The glass, my hand, the tilt. Cut to reaction. Breath held in the crowd, though none knew why. My daughter shifted in her seat, unaware of how close danger circled her. Shadows leaned. Threats thickened. I inhaled sharply. Exhaled, focused, calculated. The room held its collective breath. Everything balanced on this microsecond, on this perfect synchronization. And then I saw it. A flicker in Marina's hand, almost imperceptible. She had set the sequence in motion, both ally and threat. The betrayal's full weight hit me, heavy, undeniable, searing through my blood. My hand flexed. My eyes tracked every motion, every reflection. The music swelled. Derek's lips curved into a confident grin, unaware of the slow poison of fate awaiting him. Guests remained blissfully ignorant, smiles frozen, laughter empty. And I realized tonight was no longer about survival alone. Tonight demanded precision, courage, and the sharpest instincts I had ever wielded. A sudden scream split the air, a high, shrill cry cutting through the soft orchestral chords. Heads snapped, glasses rattled, my heartbeat slammed, movement at the edges. Shadows shifted unnaturally. The ballroom was no longer just a stage. It was a battlefield. And every second, every breath, every glance could be the difference between life and disaster. Joshua's glass touches his lips, and in the reflection of the chandelier, he sees Marina's shadow move in a way that chills him to the bone. The ballroom buzzed, unaware of the storm under its glittering surface. I could feel the pulse of the music, the clinking of glasses, the soft murmur of 200 strangers all around me. Each step, each word a potential threat. Derek's glass hovered in his hand, the liquid catching the chandelier light. Safe. For now. I reminded myself. A second wasted is a second closer to disaster. Marina moved beside him, graceful, perfect. Her hand brushed his. Not accidental. A signal. The calculation was clear. The room was a stage. I was both actor and observer. Shadows leaned. Every reflection, every mirrored pain became a potential betrayer. Every flicker of candlelight could reveal a secret. The tiniest misstep, and everything would collapse. I scanned the edges. Ellie kept her distance, careful, watching. Lydia sat frozen, unaware, her face pale under the golden glow. My daughter. Everything hinged on her safety. I flexed my fingers around my glass. Timing, execution, precision. Every move choreographed in my mind like a surgeon mapping a heart. Then a soft click, a lock somewhere near the balcony door. I didn't see who, but instinct screamed threat. Cutscene, shadows shifting in the corners, slow motion awareness, every whisper amplified. Someone was always watching, always waiting. I felt it in the sweat at my temples, the tightening of my chest. The plan had escalated beyond a toast. It had become a trap. I leaned toward the table. A subtle shift, not enough to draw attention. My glass now aligned perfectly. Derek's hands twitched, unaware of the danger, still smiling. My heart hammered. I whispered under my breath. Even the quietest man can strike when cornered. The words carried differently tonight. Life was not about subtlety. Not anymore. Marina's gaze met mine across the room. A flicker of something, hesitation, or amusement. I couldn't tell, but I understood the truth in that split second. She and Derek were in this together. Or were they? My mind raced. Every calculation, every contingency, every microsecond mattered. I remembered a principle I had always followed. In crisis, clarity is your only weapon. Clarity now meant acting without hesitation. A sudden scream shattered the piano's notes. Heads turned, glasses rattled, cut to reaction. A guest knocked over a chair, oblivious to the greater danger. My pulse spiked, eyes darting, hands flexing, shadows stretching. A phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. Text. Move wrong. She dies first. The words ignited panic and calculation in equal measure. I froze, then moved. Strategic. Subtle. Precision was everything. I adjusted the position of my glass again. Derek's gaze flicked to me for a microsecond, too brief for anyone else to notice. He drank. 2 sips. Smooth. Confident. But he didn't see the swap. Not yet. I exhaled. Slow. Controlled. Hiding the thrum of my racing pulse. Slow motion clarity again. Marina's shadow shifting near the edge of the mirror. Her lips curved. Satisfaction. Control. Threat. I could feel the room tightening around me, invisible walls pressing in. Every guest a potential liability, every laugh a misdirection. Ellie's eyes flicked to the ceiling. Tiny, deliberate gesture. She knew I was aware. Assistance, maybe, or warning. Timing now critical. I needed to act, but not yet. The stakes were too high. Misstep now, and the cost would be more than my life. The soft click again. The balcony door. My attention snapped. Another lock mechanism. Someone was setting contingencies, traps within traps. I calculated escape routes, microsecond timing, angles of view. Shadows stretched, reflections multiplied. The ballroom had become a labyrinth, a theater of threats, every light a potential reveal, every mirror a witness. Then I saw it, a tiny movement behind Marina, nearly imperceptible. Derek, unaware. Ellie watching. My breath caught. The motion revealed the hidden layer of the plan. The stakes were higher than I imagined. Not just me, not just Derek, but everything converged here. Tonight, one wrong move, 1 second of hesitation, and the night would end in catastrophe. I leaned closer to my own glass, focused, measured, every muscle coiled, adrenaline sharp, shadows bent, mirrors reflected my intent, timing aligned with the music. Cut scene, chandelier lights flickered, glasses clinked, heartbeats thundered. I could feel the narrative pivoting on the edge of a knife. Execution now critical, precision absolute. And then, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. A single word this time. Now. My heart froze. The room seemed to shrink. The music's rhythm became a countdown. Every shadow, every reflection, every glance from Marina and Derek now carried lethal weight. One breath, one decision, and it would all collapse. A sudden movement in the mirrored wall, Marina's hand brushing Derek's sleeve. Subtle, deliberate, a signal I couldn't misread. The plan, her plan, his plan, was about to unfold in full. I inhaled, exhaled, focused, every sense sharpened, 1 step away from action, 1 step away from revelation, 1 misstep, and it would all be lost. A scream echoed again, piercing. Glasses rattled, time slowed, compressed, elastic. I felt it, the point of no return. Shadows, light, reflection, every heartbeat synchronized with the threat. I swallowed. My hand hovered over the glass. Precision, timing, survival. A sudden sharp whisper reached my ear from behind the mirror. "You're out of time." The room fell silent, every eye fixed on the stage. The gleam of chandeliers bouncing off polished floors. Glasses clinking in frozen hesitation. I stood at the center, heart hammering, hands steady. Derek had drained the swapped glass. Marina's smile was sharp, unreadable. Shadows danced across her face. I inhaled, slow, controlled, every muscle coiled. A calm mind sees the trap before it snaps, I reminded myself. Then it happened. The lights flickered, brief, deliberate, almost cinematic. And Marina's hand twitched, revealing a tiny earpiece I hadn't noticed. The truth crashed into me like a wave. This wasn't simple betrayal, not just greed, not just malice. Marina hadn't acted out of desire to kill me. She had been cornered, controlled, protecting Lydia, protecting our daughter. The scream from the balcony earlier wasn't panic. It was coercion. Someone had threatened my family to force her hand. My chest tightened, relief mixed with rage. Survival had always been a calculated gamble, but this was survival and rescue entwined. I moved with deliberate precision, sliding between tables, eyes on Marina and Derek. Guests murmured, oblivious. Every second a heartbeat closer to disaster. I reached the mirrored wall, catching their reflections, reading intent in half seconds. Cut scene. I could feel the room compressing, air thick with tension, every whisper a threat, every shadow a potential ally or enemy. Derek faltered, swallowing hard. His smile vanished. Marina's composure cracked for a fraction of a second. That fraction was enough. I leaned forward, lowering my voice, almost inaudible. It's over. Every move counted, and you just lost the rhythm. His eyes widened, the recognition of defeat, the understanding that I had seen through it all. A subtle click echoed from the balcony. Security was finally moving. Our contingency triggered. My mind raced through sequences, angles, paths of escape. I signaled Ellie, who had been strategically observing, to move toward Lydia. Every motion choreographed. Cut scene. The chandelier lights reflected against polished flutes, shadows moving in tandem with my calculated steps. Marina followed, trapped between obligation and relief. Derek stumbled backward, realizing the glass he had drunk was harmless. Panic shadowed his features. The whispers grew louder. Guests noticed tension, but not the full extent. Cameras flashed. Phones lifted. Documentation of the chaos began, legally binding evidence forming in real time. Even the cleverest plan unravels under light, I thought, smiling faintly. Not all light was fatal. Some revealed truth. I reached the balcony. Lydia was safe. Eyes wide, shaking, but alive. Marina stepped forward, trembling, whispering, I had no choice. They threatened her life. I couldn't. Her voice broke. The confession confirmed the motive twist. The reason for betrayal wasn't ambition, but fear and love. Every action she had taken was to protect, to manipulate carefully under duress. The depth of her courage struck me, admiration mixed with grief. Trust had been tested, and here it had survived. Derek's phone rang, a final reveal, evidence of external coercion, documents and messages displaying threats against Lydia. The pieces fell into place. The ultimate villain wasn't Marina, wasn't Derek. It was a shadow outside the family, puppeteering the moves we'd been forced into. Twist resolved, justice redirected. I exhaled, lungs burning with relief and tension. Guests were ushered quietly to safety. Security cleared the room, documented, arrested the external operatives. Cut scene. Glass shattered as Derek's hand collided with a table in frustration. Marina collapsed into a chair, Lydia rushing to her. Hugs, sobs, whispered apologies. Shadows remained, but clarity prevailed. My body relaxed fractionally. The storm had passed. I stepped to the center again, surveying the aftermath. Silence lingered. The warmth of family returned slowly, fragile yet real. I thought of the phrase I had always carried. In the end, survival is not enough. Understanding is the real victory. Tonight, survival was intertwined with revelation. Betrayal had been a mask. Fear had been a catalyst. And love. Love had guided every move under duress. Marina's eyes met mine. No smiles, no accusations. Just understanding. She had gambled. I had gambled. We had survived together, as family. Lydia clung to both of us, exhausted but safe. Shadows lingered in the corners, reminders that trust was fragile, danger always near, but the night had ended with the ultimate human truth. Love and courage could outmaneuver even the deadliest schemes. I lifted my glass one last time, slow, deliberate. Reflection in the crystal caught the flicker of the chandelier. The room exhaled collectively, tension dissipating like smoke. Trust is the deadliest weapon of all, I whispered, repeating the words I had carried through the night. This time they were not a warning. They were a testament. Survival, revelation, redemption. Family endured. And finally I exhaled, long, steady, feeling the pulse of life. The weight of betrayal lifted and the lesson clear. Even in a world built on lies, the quietest courage, the sharpest mind, and the strongest love could rewrite the ending.